Today, CapMetro buses, rail lines, and all other services will not run because of the ice. CapMetro's Deputy CEO Dottie Watkins is joining us now on the phone. Good morning to you, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, even though Dottie services will not run today, you are planning to help in emergencies when needed. So how so?
Yeah, so CapMetro is working with our partners at the Austin-Travis County Emergency Operations Center to understand what the emergency transportation needs are for our community. We are already scheduled for support of the cold weather shelters, which have been put in place to make sure that everybody has a warm place to get out of these freezing temperatures. And so we'll be doing that all day, making trips and making sure folks can get to those shelters. We're also supporting our Metro Access services, our customers with disabilities who need to get to dialysis trips and other life-saving medical support for both our customers and folks who we find out through the Emergency Operations Center that need that kind of support. So we are available in those limited capacities. We have about 20 vehicles that are equipped with what we call snow socks, which should give us some traction on the ice today. So we'll be able to slowly and safely get around to make those emergency transports.
Yes, that's very important. And you brought up a great point. Some people, they have to get to dialysis. They must leave their house. If you don't have to, don't. But some people, they have to. So that makes sense. Now, Dottie, what sort of preparations did your agency make this week anticipating this storm?
Yes, so we have been putting together our emergency preparations for several weeks now. We were mostly focused on getting ready to shelter in place. We had about 50 people within the CapMetro family sleep on site last night. So we had cots and pillows and blankets and lots of snacks and drinks so that they could be available and not have to get out on the treacherous roadways. And we're prepared to do that through the extent of this ice event. And then also just keeping a really close eye on our equipment and our facilities to make sure that when transportation is needed, that we are already prepared and ready to safely get out there and help our community.
Yes, you're ready to go. Now, is it possible that you could suspend services tomorrow as well?
We will, midday today, we hope to have the information we need to make the decision about services tomorrow. We are watching closely. We recognize that when we don't operate service, that's a hardship for a number of folks in our community, but we also want to make sure that we give them ample notice if services are not going to be operated. So stay tuned for more information. We encourage anybody interested in the latest info on CapMetro to sign up for our Metro Alerts. And you can get information about that at capmetro.org/Metro Alerts.
Okay, great. And you know, just a little bit of perspective here. I read that this is only the second time in history CapMetro suspended services. Is that true?
Yeah, so last year during the winter weather, was the first time we had suspended all scheduled transit services because of the snow and ice. And we learned a lot from that experience, and probably the number one thing we learned was to make sure that we were realistic and not overly optimistic about what we would be able to do in terms of roadway conditions. So last year we canceled service somewhat at the last minute, and knowing that the roads were going to be iced over today, we made the decision about noon yesterday to go ahead and announce a cancellation of services for today. So we hope to, by early afternoon today, be able to let our community know what we think we can do tomorrow.
It stinks that we had to deal with what we had to deal with last year, but it's interesting to hear so many organizations, whether it was our news station, just people at home, everybody's kind of learned lessons, and they're kind of going forward saying, okay, we know what we did wrong last time, or we know what we could have done better last time, and we can just kind of build on that. So I think that that's great. Before we go, what kinds of problems can ice create on our rail lines? Because I know you're suspending the rail lines as well.
Yeah, the rail itself can typically handle the ice, but the biggest issue we see with our rail system is our crossing systems. The crossing mechanisms, when they get especially covered in ice, they can get heavy, they can malfunction. So we do have our rail maintenance crews out there today to make sure that we don't end up with crossing arms blocking the roadway when our trains aren't operating. But just understanding all of those issues with the system, we decided that it was best for us to also suspend our rail service. So we encourage everybody in Central Texas to stay warm and stay home if they can.